Welcome to Yield Today with Dallin, Candland. I'm here with Alex Pauls. He helps run KP Design with his wife. It's her business, and just really excited to talk with him about that journey and their family and just everything else about Alex. So thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me, Dallin.
Yeah, so let's kind of get into like you going on this Europe trip with your family. What kind of sparked that? What kind of made that fall into place?
So, the thing that sparked it was one day I was, taking out the trash to the end of the curb, and it just kind of hit me like a lightning bolt as I dropped the garbage into the garbage can. That, man, every day just feels like garbage day. Every day is the same kind of thing. My whole life is on cruise control. I got the house, I got the family, I got the job, and I just got no other carrots, other than trying to climb this invisible corporate ladder. And I was quickly realizing that my ladder was, up against the wrong building, and I was climbing the wrong direction. And I just had this lightning bolt moment, and that was probably about the summer of 2015 or 2016, and we ended up going on this big road trip. We listened to like The Secret and a couple other different, motivational type books, trying to figure out, what's going to inspire us to go on to the next phase of our life. And finally, around, I guess it was around late 2016, I had, this moment where I was just kind of praying for inspiration. I kind of joke like I only have in my mind I have like these 5 coupons in my entire life where I get to pray to God, and where I'm really at this crossroads, and this was like number 2 or 3, where it's like, oh man, just give me a sign, show me what I need to do. I need some inspiration because I can't keep going on this cruise control life where I just feel like I'm dying inside, and I don't want to do that for the next 40 years of my life. So I had this so long, this is a fun long story, but I ended up having an evaluation. Anybody that can relate to this, my supervisor brought me into his office. We had an evaluation of my performance, and he was just totally going through the motions. I was expecting something really inspirational. I was like, oh man, okay, God's gonna give me my sign. Like He's gonna show me what I should strive for, what I should be going for that next chapter. And it was just like, you're doing great, everything's awesome, and I got no complaints. Just keep doing what you're doing. And I was just like, wow, okay. Went back, sat down. 2 hours later, he pulls me back into the office, and this was just after lunchtime, and he asks me, have you been drinking at lunchtime? And just out of the blue, this is the same day. And I thought, wow, this is weird. Like, I said, no, of course not. I said, I actually worked through lunch. I was at my desk. He's like, oh, somebody walked by and they thought they smelled alcohol in your cubicle. I'm like, oh, okay, that's really odd, because that's not like, I don't have that reputation. I'm not a drinker or anything. And I just thought, man, that is so bizarre. And I went to bed that night, and I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Boom, just eyes wide open. And I drove to work at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I waited for him. And I don't usually get to work till 8. And I was there at like 5:30 a.m. waiting for him, and because I knew he came in early, so he got there at 6 a.m. And I'm like emotional and almost in tears, and I knew what I was going to say to him. And I walk into the office. I close the door at 6 a.m. when he gets there, and I asked him. I said, "Who else did you ask about the smell of alcohol?" Because there's a lot of people in our office in the area. And he said, "Nobody." And I said, that's all I needed to know. I said, I got my sign. I said, I'm out of here. That was like, wow. I was, it was actually very emotional. Like, this was after 15 years of working there. And I thought, man, you just said like all this nonsense about how great I am. And then all of a sudden I'm this drunk, and, you just totally played your hand of what you thought of me deep down. And I told him, I said, I'm out of here. And I said, I said, before summertime, I'm gone. I said, I just need to make a couple chess moves and figure some things out. When you know it, the universe is such an amazing thing that next week, the company actually started wanting to downsize, and they offered 1,000 buyouts for people to have an early retirement. And I had the minimum amount of time for the maximum amount of payout. So I got like 8 months of severance, and I got all my sick time paid out. So I basically got a year's worth of payout, and I was just going to quit. And all of a sudden I got like a year paid for. And I'm like, man, like even just telling it right now, it's like I got goosebumps. I'm like, this is God working. And I mean, everybody's like, oh, there's no evidence of God. I'm like, okay, there might not be like proof, but there's like evidence that miraculous things happen, because never in that company's, like, you see this 60 right here, that this is the company's book. That was 60-year anniversary. They're probably at 75 now. So in 75 years, they have never offered a buyout ever. And all of a sudden, me, that week, I'm getting a buyout for a year retirement so that I can go get on a plane. So we sold all of our stuff. This is how crazy we are. We're selling all our stuff. I'd say we sold 80%. We sold our house. We were homeless. We strapped some backpacks on our kids. And that's how we ended up traveling Europe. We took this buyout. We kind of I retired for about 5 or 6 months. And I made, we were making some chess moves. And by that summer, on our wedding anniversary, actually, we managed to sell the house. Selling the house is another story. That was kind of crazy too. But miraculously, everything fell into place. We sold the house, and the day that we handed over the keys, we got on the plane and we went to Europe on our wedding anniversary, which was like, it was pretty amazing. And to tell that story, to relive that story, getting to that point is actually way more interesting, I think, than the actual Europe experience, which in itself was, incredible. I joke that I had this bucket list, and everything I did in those 3 or 4 months checked off the entire bucket. And it's like, oh crap, either I'm going to die or I got to make another bucket list quick so that I don't die, and I don't want to tempt the universe into ending things prematurely. But it was, it was pretty cool.
That's wild. And yeah, I definitely can see, like, there's plenty of times where I look and like, I like got this feeling like, don't take this internship, even if it sounds fantastic and it sounds great and everything. And then that didn't make any sense to me. And then I ended up getting the job at the potato farm, and that led to me like starting my podcast, and these other things fell into place. So I definitely can agree with like God kind of giving you a little hint of some kind, and you get to choose what you'll do with it. I wanted to go back to the experience with the work, because it made me think of this quote that kind of breaks my heart a little bit, but you see it all the time. It's like, what you do speaks so loud, I cannot hear anything you say. So like you could say anything you want to say, but if what you're doing is speaking 10 times louder. So do you want to go into that as far as like this decision and actually, taking that action instead of just letting it all stay in your head? Because I feel like there's some people that they are looking for a wake-up call, and then they get the wake-up call, and like, that's not the wake-up call, I need another one or something, and they just sort of get on this hamster wheel.
Sure. I mean, like with anything, there's going to be a red herring. There's going to be a temptation, and it'll take you the wrong way. For me, my red herrings, and I've noticed this over my life, it's money. I always get tempted with money. So anything that I think is, it might not align with what I want to do, but it will be profitable, that's my red herring. And I tend to go in that direction. And I did that with my career too. Let's go back. I mean, it's great. I'm going to be 45 this year. So I'm so fortunate to be able to go back half my life, but still have half my life ahead of me, right? Like this is prime time right now. So when I was 15 years old, I really wanted to be a guidance counselor. I wanted to be a mentor. I wanted to work with kids. But I mean, who are you at 15? You don't have those life experiences. And it was funny how quickly I gave up on that dream. and I loved that idea of inspiring people. I liked math and I liked physics, so I actually went to high school for an extra year, and I took everything that I needed to get into university to become an engineer, electrical engineer, because I thought, oh, money, I'm gonna make a good amount of money. I like this, you know. It's the temptation that so many of us fall into, and you quickly take a crap on your dreams because you think, oh, guidance counselor will maybe make 30 or 40 grand in a school and whatever. I sold out so quickly on my dreams, and wouldn't you know it though, I hated university. I only went for a year. That was a pretty interesting wake up call. How much I hated it, but I didn't hate math and physics. So my wife actually convinced me to go back to college, or community college, and I took electrical engineering technology, and I got to do all the things I actually really enjoyed doing, working with my hands, actually doing electrical troubleshooting, things like that. And then it's funny how the universe works. I got hired with our utility as an electrician, like a trainee, and I had a mentor, which was really cool. I had multiple mentors that helped get me, to where I needed to be as a senior electrical technician. So I did that for about 10 years. But in those 10 years, I got to be a mentor for other people too. So I actually, like, not just with the work, but with their life. Like, we got to, me and these young guys, we worked together side by side, and I got to, do that guidance counselor thing that I always wanted to do. And I thought, man, what a gift that I still got to, I still got in there. And then it happened again. At about 10 years, I got greedy and I was looking for that red herring of trying to make more money because we wanted a bigger house. We were going to have another child, and I didn't want to work so much overtime. And, it was kind of like, oh, I was almost getting too good for being in the field, and I wanted to be an office guy and wear a suit. And so that red herring started to call to me. And wouldn't you know it, I one of my mentors, he actually retired, and then that was kind of my sign that I needed to get out because they were bringing in a new supervising team, and I was like, okay, it's time for a change anyway. So I ended up applying for a job and I got it, and next thing you know, I'm working in a cubicle by myself, not really being part of a team anymore, not mentoring anybody, making more money, working less overtime, and it wasn't that stressful a job either. But that piece of me that I loved so much had been thrown out, and there was actually no way to get it back. So I, suffered basically for 6 years, kind of alone. Like, I don't mind being alone, but I need people to recharge me too. And then, I don't know, I'm not an extrovert, I'm not an introvert. I think I'm an ambivert. I think that's what it is. Like,
Same.
yeah. And it was just interesting. So after that 6 years, I just couldn't do it anymore. That red herring had tricked me. And then that's when I used my coupon to talk to God, like, okay, like, I can't afford another red herring. I need to break away from this. But this is scary now, right? Like, you're in pretty deep into a career. You're about 15 years into a career. You got a pension. You got 8 weeks holidays. You got sick time. You're making six figures. You have a family. Your parents are telling you you're an idiot if you leave. Like, there's a lot of pressure to, walk away from something like that. We call it the golden handcuffs. There's a lot of pressure. As a man, you want to be able to provide for your family, and you don't want to be seen as this guy that just walks away from it all. And and I battled internally too. Am I grateful? Am I being grateful enough and walking away? Because so many people, like, when I applied for that job initially, I beat out 450 people for that job. And I didn't take that lightly. I'm like, they saw something in me. Like, I was a diamond in the rough, and, I took advantage of, I was grateful, and I took advantage of every opportunity I could to advance myself, be the best employee that I could. And now, was I being ungrateful for leaving, for needing that next challenge? And that was actually one of my biggest things that I battled with internally. And not only that, but leaving my friends, like, we moved away, we left the province. And so, yeah, it kind of, broke my heart to leave my friends and my family. But I don't know, when you need to up level, sometimes you got to jump off a pretty big cliff, without a parachute, and hopefully you land perfectly in the water and you can survive it.
Yeah, it's wild all the stuff you went into there, and I appreciate you breaking that down for us. It just kind of blows my mind how, you take one step like that, and then it sort of seems like the next step is all of a sudden just sort of appears, but we do need to take that first step, and then things become a little more clear to us. And
Yeah, and it's so easy to not do anything. It's so easy to just keep going with the status quo, but eventually you'll notice it's just getting more and more black and more painful inside until you can't stand it anymore, and then you're really full of regret, and suicide should never be on the table. Like, you should never get to a point in your life where you can't handle it and don't have regrets, because I mean, if you take suicide off the table, at least you have the opportunity to make tomorrow better. Do something drastic if you have to, but don't do that. And there's so many, like the book that I'm working on, it addresses guys in my situation where they just couldn't handle that and they ended up taking their life. And I want to be that, inspiration. If I can write a book that inspires people to take that, crap off the table and know that, you don't have to be, somebody special. I mean, you are somebody special. I think that our society takes that away from so many people. And I had this big epiphany just in September that it's like, holy crap, like I'm not this random evolutionary space monkey flying through the universe. And I know that's going to sound weird to you and your audience, but like, I was put here by God for a reason, and this is my shot at making this world a better place. And if I can talk to people like you, and if I can write a book and inspire people, I am, like, think about the impact one person can have positively by staying alive, by breaking through these invisible barriers in their mind that they can't make a difference. All they're going to do is just sit in a cubicle and rot. Like, it's funny, like, who the heck am I to do these things? And it's like, why not me? Why not me today? Why not me tomorrow? All of us have this infinite potential inside of us, and the propaganda out there, they want to make it seem like we don't have that power, and we do. And the more we get this message out to people that we are all special and we all have something amazing to contribute, and even if we fell for some red herrings in the past, tomorrow's another day, and today is incredible. Like, if I gave you $10 million today, Dallin, I just heard this the other day, that would be pretty great, right? But if you died tomorrow, like, how great would that $10 million be, right? Like, tomorrow is way more valuable than money. And it's like, we can do so many incredible things, even if we just level up a little bit every day. I'm not asking you to, change the world in one day, but if we just level up, 1% every day, after a year, you're 4 times leveled up. It's like, it's incredible what we can do.
yeah, I appreciate you going into that touchy topic, something that doesn't really get talked about a ton. But it's interesting. I gave a church talk yesterday, back when I was in a job where I worked as an installer for a company. It wasn't exactly what I wanted to be doing. I had already done door to door for them, and it kind of got to this point where I was not feeling very appreciated. I was making a little bit of money, and it kind of got to this point where I got told during one of the jobs by the customer and some other people I wasn't doing a very good job, and so I was like, okay, whatever. And I got down on my knees and I prayed, and I sort of was like, God, I'm done with this. I can't take this anymore. I'm ready to be taken home. I believe you can do it, so do it. As like somebody else can fill the shoes of Dallin, and there's a lot of things I've learned from that, and one is that nobody has the 26 years of Dallin experience that I do, and nobody can take the place of another person. And it's like, it's very humbling to accept that and realize that and not deny that and not run away from that, because the truth really is so blindingly beautiful. But it is kind of crazy to finally accept that, and that does take time to be able to do, but I look back at it because like 6 months later I started the podcast, and I've had a lot of other things happen since that moment. And what I've really come to realize is like, no, you don't have to be this, you don't have to fit into anybody else's box. That's the thing, is you can do other stuff. And as I've gotten older, I realize, oh, maybe a lot of me is not built for any of these older jobs. It's for these newer jobs. This thing that was like coming up with, internet and podcasting and whatever. That's where I've felt most myself. And it's taken time for some of these opportunities to develop. And so maybe the most wonderful thing that you could ever imagine is still like a couple years away, and all of the learning you're doing is helping you enjoy that more. It's just tough to believe that, but I believe 100% that it's the truth.
The easiest thing to kill our soul is to compare ourselves to others. Nobody. I always used to joke like, man, it would be so neat if one day somebody actually would think that, man, it'd be cool to be that guy. And here I am. I'm like, I got like nothing figured out. Everything's uphill. Everything's a challenge. And you just look at all these people driving like fancy sports cars, and I'm like, well, maybe they got the money thing figured out, but maybe they don't have love in their life. Maybe they have all these traumas in their life, and they're just really good at making money. Or there's people who, are don't have anything, but they're happy. Like, that to me is incredible, right? If you have nothing and you're still happy and you can just go about living your life on the bare minimum, to me that's really incredible. And and I don't want to speak for people that are extremely rich, but I mean, money can only get you so much, right? And I always use money as a tool. Money to me is a tool. I don't need to hang on to it. I'll use it to get me the experiences that I want, like the traveling through Europe. So my family and I, we traveled, we used X number of dollars, and we met my family, we met my wife's family, we had all these experiences. That bucket list is easily worth $10 million to me, let's say, in my mind. But did it cost 10 million? No. So I got a wicked deal on these experiences. And I just think traveling is, I mean, and this is me, right? Traveling is one of the most incredible things that you can do. And over the last 2 years when we couldn't, that's when I really noticed how much I was robbed. And I shouldn't say that we didn't travel. We were renting like log cabins in the bush, Airbnbs, and we would take the girls out, and we still had these great experiences. And like a one room thing, and I would tell like ghost stories to the kids at night. And those are the things that are priceless. They're priceless things. And like I said, comparison is the easiest thing. Like my wife and I, we have an incredible marriage, and that's not by accident. Like, we had a lot of meat grinder years when the kids were little, and I always joke that you better have a strong foundation before you have the kids, because all the kids try and do is just tear it all down. They don't know that they're doing it, but they're doing it. And you got to be a united front. You got to be strong. You got to be flexible, and you got to be loving. And parenting is an interesting experience, and I think that it really does make you stronger. And that's another thing that we were talking about suicide. Like, that's another thing. Like, when you have children, and when you have a wife, and when you have all these people depending on you, that's another reason that you should take that off the table and never even consider that stuff. I mean, I'm guilty. I've thought about it when I was younger, and it's like, man, how dumb was I? Like, at 15 or 16, I'm depressed. I don't know why I'm depressed. You're going through all these like hormones and changes and emotions, and your mind's telling you these stories. Nobody likes you. Nobody wants to be your friend. All this negative talk, right? And I'm sure that it's so funny. Like, my dad was an alcoholic when I was a kid, and we didn't have Google. And I looked around the classroom every morning when I was a child, and I'm like, I'm the only person in this classroom with a screwed up home. Like, I was scared to bring people over to my house. I was Like things at home were not good, and I was terrified that somebody would find out my shame because I was the oldest. And it's like, and I was so alone, and I couldn't talk to anybody about it. I didn't talk to anybody. And then after, like, once I got older, it was like, holy crap, and I never talked to anybody about it until I was older. But I talked to my friends, and like, oh yeah, my dad got hammered, or I'm like, oh really? I'm like, I thought my dad was the only one. And it's amazing the gifts that, I know I'm rambling all over the place, but it's amazing the gifts that kids have now, like with Google. Like if you go on there, you really will find out there's chat rooms, there's all these support things. You're not alone. Like you really are experiencing what so many other people are experiencing. And that's kind of a blessing to know that you're not totally unique, that you have people that you can relate to. And like your journey right now might not be 1,000% unique. It's unique, but you can find lots of other people that are doing the things that you're doing that'll help you, not make certain mistakes. Like, oh, I did this, don't do that, right? With the podcast. Oh, you want to get a sponsorship? Try doing this, talk more about this. You get some more. There's so many, like we live in such a cool time right now. Like you and me are talking. Like how crazy is that, right? There's 8 billion people and we're talking right now about this, and like life doesn't get more amazing when you just kind of stop for a second and realize how incredible things are. From where I came as a 5-year-old, in 1983, there was no internet. I was just living this hell by myself, and I couldn't talk to anybody. And now you can go on the internet and find other people that are going through what you are, and there's that community. That's, to me, that we live in incredible times right now. So I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, I think it just kind of comes back to mind the need to speak up, like to actually not hold all this back. So like when I graduated from college and didn't have I had a degree, but I didn't have a job, and the job I did have like fell through, I was pretty frustrated. And, I went and talked with a church leader guy, a local church leader guy, and he helped me get set up with counseling. And so first I was like, I don't know about that. But then I was like, oh, I'm willing to do it. And that, I've had like counseling one other time, and it was, you can have some counselors that really not that great. I think you have to shop around sometimes a little bit, but this one was super good. She was a really good soundboard for me, and helped me understand how I was seeing a lot of things. And a lot of it was kind of this. She's like, I've worked with people, and like, we don't want to compare, but like you're doing like in the grand scheme of things, like you're okay, like. And I think a lot of that is, for me, writing is a huge outlet. When I'm able to write these things down, I'm able to share them. I have like a over 100-day streak on 750 words, and so I just brain dump whenever I wake up in the morning. I didn't do it this morning, I'll do it after this, but like that gives me a lot of peace of mind, is knowing I have that outlet. And that's the sad thing, is like a lot of people don't have this safe place. I was blessed to have parents and cousins and grandparents everywhere. And sometimes I did take it for granted, where I could share how I was feeling, and they were pretty good about empathizing with me, and know they didn't understand exactly what I was going through, but they tried to understand. And, the sad thing is we kind of live in a world where a lot of people sort of just feel so shut off. They don't want to even try to understand anymore, because it can be really painful.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Another thing that I would really recommend is, when you're ready and when you're open, you find a partner, and that partner, and you'll know when it's the right partner, and like she will, like I'm talking about for me, like when I found my wife at a young age, it was very apparent. Like I knew by the time I was 16 that I was going to meet this, or that I was going to marry this woman, which is kind of crazy, right? But I knew that God delivered this woman to me. And the reason I knew that was because she kept pushing me. She just kept pushing me to be a better man. Any woman that like breaks you down or trashes you, this is not the right partner for you. So this is probably the best advice that I could ever give anybody. It's like when you're with somebody, and this goes for you too. Like your job is to, prop her up, make her the best version of herself, make her more powerful in life and in business. And if you guys are working towards things together, like my wife and I, we work together, and as soon as we combined forces, we right away doubled our business, and then the next year we doubled our business again. And it was amazing to me how everything was just clicking and natural. And when you're in the right relationship with somebody and you're working towards goals together, not, one person's working towards this and one person's working towards this, and they kind of compete with each other. So you're like competing against each other. Like this person wants to retire to Florida and this person wants to just work forever and then go live in Russia, or something like something totally opposite, right? But when like when you can get these like checkpoints and work towards them together, and you're both leveling up as people, you're not growing apart, you're leveling up together. These are like cheat codes. Like remember Nintendo Game Genie? Like this is like a Game Genie cheat code, and it's so crazy. Like I hope I don't sound cheesy when I say stuff like that, but it's like, man, I can't believe how important a partner is and how devastating this culture, this hookup culture is right now. Like I can't even imagine like dating and what are these like what is it, Grinder? That's for the gay people. Grinder, and what's the other one? Like
I'm not in the world at all, but I probably would know it if you brought it up, because it's prevalent. It's all over the place.
Yeah, like all this stuff. It's like, oh man, this is crazy. Like all this stuff is so detrimental to who you are. I mean, I realize that you can probably use these things for good, like using it as a superpower to try and a good dating site, you might be able to like filter, right, and then try and get that connection, especially nowadays. Like how many people just go up to each other and talk to each other and ask each other out? It's probably not even that common anymore. Like I don't even know how I would go into a grocery store and like approach a woman and ask her, around the watermelons, like, hey, what are you doing tonight? You want to go for coffee? I wouldn't even know how to do that now. But I'm just saying, like, if you can find the right person in the right atmosphere, it's so funny. Like your parents could probably set you up better than you could set yourself up with one of their friends' kids that, they're like all this old matchmaker stuff. I bet you that would probably be a cool app. It's like old people matchmaker. We should like invent that. That'd be a pretty cool dating app where parents go on there and like match their kids up. Sorry, I'm spitballing now. The coffee's kicking in. But
that's okay.
Yeah, I'm telling you the power of partnership. Sorry, the power of partnership. It's pretty amazing, especially when you're doubting yourself, but the person beside you still sees you, like the average you, not the one that's like plummeting and not the one that's like skyrocketing that day. They see you, your baseline, and they know what you're capable of, and they're there to encourage you on this road, like your dreams. Like I think it's very underrated. So that's
I think there's a lot of work to do in that, especially like with couples and having really good like routines and not routines, rituals to like help build the relationships, things you can look forward to, whether it's like a date every week or something like that, some kind of thing to like look forward to, that builds up the couple, it builds up the relationship. And yeah, there's a quote that keeps coming to my mind that, when the man elevates the woman, he elevates himself too. And then the opposite is also true. When the man demeans the woman, he's also like demeaning and hurting himself. And yeah, it's a very delicate thing. And for me, I've learned for myself that like, if I'm not like feeling it, because I did a little bit of dating and stuff in college or going on dates, I'm gonna be upfront and be like, hey, like, you're a great person, but this just isn't going to fly. And that's a good, because I'm an all in or all out person. So I'm like, I'm not gonna do this like, let's go on a date here and sort of text like we're in a relationship but we're not actually in a relationship. That would drive me bonkers and insane. So yeah, I'm not gonna do any of that.
With my friends, I don't do small talk, I do big talk. And that way you can figure out what I'm all about right away. And if you don't like it, that's cool. Like, and it takes a lot of maturity to be okay with yourself. Because when you're younger, you kind of want to be a chameleon. You kind of want everybody to like you. I mean, that's me. Like when I was younger, I kind of chameleoned, and I wanted to be somebody that everybody liked. And then finally, probably around 30, when I turned 30, I kind of stopped caring. I started getting less friends, but it's like, you know what? At least the friends that I do have, they they like me for who I am.
Yeah.
And I don't have to pretend. And if somebody doesn't like you because of your politics, that's such a dumb reason to not like somebody. Or if somebody doesn't like you because of your religion, that's a pretty dumb reason to not like somebody. It's like if you don't like somebody because of your race, that's a pretty dumb reason to not like somebody, especially in 2023. Like I can't believe that racism is actually a thing. I always joke with my kids. I'm like, that's the dumbest reason to not like somebody. I can think of a million reasons to like somebody less than the color of somebody's skin. Like that's just to me that's just mind blowing that that still is even a thing. But I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
I
do.
always joke that there's so many ways or so many other ways to not or so many other reasons to not like somebody.
I like that. Yeah, there's just so much you leave out of the table when you say, okay, I'm not going to talk with these people or these people. It doesn't mean you need to be best friends with them, but like even just to talk with them, because the way I look at it is everybody knows something you don't. Like even in just talking with you, there's things you've done that I've never even thought about or even, like Canada. I've seen pictures of Canada. I think I've flown over Canada when I was on the way to Alaska last year, and that's it. Like there's no other experience except that. And so this is all like completely brand new to me. And I think if some people were a little more like in a genuinely curious kind way, they could realize, wow, we're living in a pretty amazing world. Like, yeah, there's difficulties and struggle and things happen, but probably we do need to have stuff happen. We need to stay in a place where things can get moved around because it helps us value what lasts.
Sure. It's funny, like I was meditating this morning and this came to me and I'll share it with you. Um, if we didn't have social media and we didn't have the news and we didn't have all these things like the internet and telling us who to not to like, because our algorithms are all screwed up, right? But they're all telling us the same thing about who's the bad guy. Like for the last, I was joking, like for the last 20 years, like we were supposed to be scared of, Muslims because they're blowing stuff up, and now all of a sudden it's this other stuff, and it's like, man, 99.9% of everybody out there is good. They just want to live a good life, and we are being fed the fear and like I honestly think that there's energy vampires out there that are just trying to take things from us, right? Like you go on your phone and you're like I can actually feel myself getting drained as I'm on my phone, right? And it's funny, like all I want to do is go on Instagram and have a couple laughs. I want to see a couple funny things, but there's the news and there's something else that's stupid. And it's like, oh man, like if you and me, we lived in the bush and we were farmers and we didn't know any better, we would be totally happy. We would be totally fine. And somebody would come to the farm and we would greet them and they would be great. And 99.9% of us out there just want to live a good life and make the world a better place. And it's so crazy how the news, like the television, the social media, how they get to us and they try to remind us that there's evils and there's scary things out there. And next thing you know, Dallin's scared to come to Canada because there's polar bears and there's grizzly bears and they're all gonna, as soon as he steps off the plane, a grizzly bear is gonna grab him and just tear him to pieces because Canada is just like crazy. It's just wide open, and I promise you, it's not like that. But that's like I think about Australia. It's like, man, I'm gonna get off the plane in Australia, and a tarantula is gonna jump on my face, and a snake's gonna wrap around my leg, and I'll be dead in about 3 seconds. As soon as I get in Australia, it's funny.
It is it's pretty it's pretty nuts how we can like warp things, how we can change how things are seen, because it really is all mostly like how we see it in our minds. Like if we have had an experience, and I'm speaking from personal experience, if we have like somebody that like we wanted to talk to more, and now that person is gone for whatever reason. If we see somebody that kind of looks like that person in the grocery stores, whatever, we're probably gonna have some kind of emotional reaction, and we might want to go talk to that person. Whereas somebody else will walk in the store and see that person, and be like, it's just another person. And
Yeah.
so it's just about cherishing what we have and learning from it, and that will lead to more good stuff. That's like, it's interesting because the last couple months my parents have given me the great gift of letting me bum in their house and just let me do my own thing, and I've written more poetry, run more, and done all these other things more than I have in a while. And I feel extremely happy, even though I'm not making any money from this podcast. I'm not doing anything else, but I'm happy, and I'm like, okay, well, this is good. And I do have these memories also of childhood of like, we just went to the lake and there was no social media back then. And I do have a couple memories like that. Like, there was literally no social media at all. The first time I heard about Facebook, which was the first social media I ever really heard about, was I was like 2008. I was in like 7th grade. That was the first time I heard about it, and there was social media was not even a thing really back then, at least as far as it being widespread. And then all of a sudden, this exodus happened, and now we're all struggling to spend time off of it. But you got to do that.
Yeah, oh, for sure. It's I mean, it's very insidious. What Facebook was, like when it first started, I got on there and I was like, "Oh man, this is so cool. Like I'm just connecting with my friends and they can kind of see our pictures." But what it morphed into and how quickly it morphed, I was like, "Oh man." I'm sure by like 2013, 2012, I was like, this is not what it was." And now, unfortunately, like for me, it's kind of a necessary evil with my business. Like I need to be on Facebook, I need to be on LinkedIn, and that's fine. Like I actually really like LinkedIn. I think of all the social media platforms, LinkedIn, there's so much amazing content, amazing information, and you can tell it's like not run by the CIA. Like Facebook's like run by the CIA. It's just like this giant data collection. Like they got all your photos, they know everything about you. And like if you ever ran for your presidency, like boom, right away they just got everything on you from, your whole childhood. I always joke about like when we were kids, like nobody knew anything that we did, so we could like easily run for, prime minister or something because our whole childhood and college wasn't like logged on Twitter and social media. Like every single stupid thing we ever said or did. Like, could you? I mean, you're younger than me, but I'm like, Twitter is like the most dangerous thing ever. Like me as a 15-year-old, a 16-year-old on Twitter, just randomly putting out like insane ideas, and then it's like out there. I mean, the things that could be held against me in a court of law, like it's crazy. And you're not that person, right? Like there's lots of times where you're either playing a character or you're not thinking or you're in the heat of passion and something comes out there. I always have these like ridiculous thoughts. I'm like, holy smokes, it's a good thing nobody can read my mind. Like some of these things are just bananas. And that doesn't mean that that's necessarily you, right? And to have all these things, like, I don't know. I worry about my kids and I try and keep them off of social media as much as possible. They use like TikTok, and I don't go on TikTok. But man, TikTok is wild. Like we talk about CIA and Facebook, like China and TikTok, they're just like mining data. Like that stuff's so, like data mining is so amazing. Like that data is worth more than oil, right? And the more they know, the more they can sell and do things. It's a very interesting game.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is crazy, like the access we have to information that used to be so like guarded, and people's raw emotion, and it's powerful because we all can like resonate with that kind of stuff just intuitively. And so like for me, Twitter can be super great in one way, but it's like I gotta have some like muted accounts. I need to have all this other stuff figured out, and I need to have a strategy. Otherwise, this could be like going to any other kind of battle where I go in without a strategy, and all of a sudden I get clobbered. And I find that for me, I know we're going along longer than I thought we would, but that's okay. Like I realized that sometimes we're getting clobbered not by, like straight up attack, like you're stupid or your thoughts are stupid. It's just from just distraction and just getting super caught up in like this crazy web of whatever. Like this person, punched this person in the face on a subway, and you're like, oh, I have to see that. It's like, no, you don't. Nobody will ever talk about this ever again in like 2 months, 1 month. So it's like you get to choose. Do you really want to do that? Like there's that one quote, like, what am I going to do with my one wildly amazing and precious life? It's like, I believe that there's life after this, but at the end of the day, like what we do here is going to influence what we are able to do later. And you just see that in life in general. Like the choices I make today are going to influence in some way the quality of life I live a couple months down the road, because it's like the thoughts I'm going to have, maybe the people I meet. So there does need to be more strategy than ever before, because the thing is, the strategies are being used against us and we don't even realize it, but the evidence is everywhere.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just you doing this podcast, that's not nothing. That's a lot of somethings to somebody. And if even one person listens to this podcast and all of a sudden they're, I say the right thing and they take away that golden nugget. Like I often meet people and it's like, holy smokes, I gotta write some of the things certain people say down, because, I think that's cool. Like, wow, like I might actually say something that might impact somebody's life. And you doing this and talking to people and people listening, like somebody might be having a really bad day and they turn on your podcast and you made their day better. You entertained them for a little bit and got their mind out of the gutter, and they got energized. Like that's a lot of somethings that add up, and that's how we change the world.
Yeah, well, you get in their ear, and then it's like we didn't go into this a ton, but it all starts like internally. So like you start hearing these messages that kind of get you thinking a little bit, like sort of this what if kind of thing, and now we're thinking more towards what we can do instead of what we can't do, and from there, like that's where a lot of this stuff comes from. It's like I'll take this one step out into the darkness, and then it gets better and better from there. Or I mean, you just learn new things about yourself that help you to be a little more excited each day, and it just kind of compounds. So
Yeah, I would say my biggest detriment nowadays is spending way too much time on the phone, and I try to read a lot more. If Yeah, I mean, if I could reduce the amount of time I spend on my phone and actually like listen to myself, like we're talking about internally. I was struggling last week with we're trying to we're trying to take the next leap in our business, and I was struggling, and we're talking about battling uphill. So things were so smooth for 3 or 4 years during the pandemic. We were working, everything was kind of like clicking, and now you can kind of see the economy's taking a turn, and now we gotta zag, and we gotta make some moves. So I actually sat there one morning and I was meditating, and all of a sudden it just became clear. And I have a whiteboard right here, and I quickly wrote down, these are all of our incomes. These are all the things that I do that produce income. This is all my busy work that doesn't really do anything, and that I should be delegating. And then I wrote down, this is how much I want to make every year. This is how I'm going to grow my audience. This is how I'm going to do. And it was just like, wow, all of a sudden, all this stuff just came out of me. Whereas I don't know, like physically inside, I was nervous, and it felt like everything was bottled up. And I had to like put my phone away, and I just had to like meditate. And then the voice came, and all of a sudden I just started writing, and it just started to come out. And you'll notice this too with your writings. Like you ask for that inspiration, and then the voice will come, and it's incredible. And the more you do it, the better you get, and you kind of take it for granted. You're like, oh, I'm not magical. No, this is like magical stuff when you get hit with inspiration and lightning bolts, and all you got to do is quiet your mind. Not that I'm this professional yoga guy or this professional meditation guy, but the more you do these things, the stronger you get, just like working out. And when you, like mind, body, and spirit, when you work on that spirit portion and you pump it up and get it like really strong, man, not only are you inspired, but you're starting to really like you're on steroids. You're hypercharging the world around you, and making big differences. And all of a sudden, like, you're starting to freak people out in your life. Like, who is this guy? And that's an interesting phenomenon too, because people will start to grab onto you and like, hey man, let's calm down. Like, you don't want to like level up too much, right? And you gotta like brush them off and like, nah, man, like we're going for it right now. We're going for it. Like, this is, I'm inspired. I'm making big moves. I'm jumping off that cliff. I'm quitting my job after 15 years. I'm gonna go sell my house, be homeless. I'm gonna travel Europe with my little kids, and we're gonna do all these amazing things. And I'm gonna piss my pants while I'm doing it because it's terrifying. But next thing you know, I got all these other job offers. I had like three job offers while I'm under the Eiffel Tower. I'm like, who am I? Like, but once the universe starts like, once you start vibing high, that frequency, all of a sudden these like incredible opportunities start coming to you, and you just like you can't explain it. And that is that is the magic of our lives. And anybody that tries to tell you that there isn't like incredible divine stuff going on, they're lying to you, because once you get tuned in, man, it's crazy how powerful we all are. And just as and take it as a blessing that you're getting older. You're not decomposing while you're alive. You're leveling up. This, like, when I'm 80 years old, I'm not going to be retired. I'm going to be doing like incredible things with this gigantic toolbox that I have. Like, how old are you right now, Dallin? You're 26?
Hmm.
Yeah, like 26, like 25, I just started working. I just started my career at like 25. So imagine like you have like I have like 20 years of toolbox on you. But if you spend, a couple days with me, I can give you a whole bunch of those tools and increase your toolbox like any good mentor would. And then you're like skipping all these steps and you're leveling up. And next thing, by my when I'm 80, my toolbox will be this big. But because you know me and you know these other people, your toolbox will actually be bigger when you're 80. And that's the power of finding the right people to collaborate with and get inspired by. And I'm always on the hunt for amazing people like that. And when you find people like that, they're not scared to share with you the things that'll help you level up, and they won't even want money for it. Like, I always joke, like, I'm so excited to, like, if I find a little secret or a little tidbit, I'm so excited to share it, like on Facebook or whatever, even if nobody listens. I'm like, I just read this mind-blowing thing, and I'm just gonna put it out there so as many people can know it as possible, because I hate secrets. And if I can level up everybody, I'll just do it right away, because the world's just a better place.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that when you hide the fire, you burn yourself generally, and I mean, you never know. Somebody could be really needing that. That happened to me pretty recently, where somebody shared something about ADHD and how it equates with this like dopamine deluge. Like, you don't get as much dopamine from things, and that explained a lot of things for me, and that switched how I live my life to a certain degree. Like, okay, like, I need to prioritize cold showers and all these other things that bring the natural dopamine, and
Mm.
understanding that, and really tracking all this stuff and strategizing it and celebrating it, because that helps the dopamine too. And there's all this other beautiful stuff. So yeah, that's a beautiful way to end it on, though. So how can people get in touch with you, and what be some other advice I guess you'd share for somebody that is needing to take that leap?
Well, if you want to reach out to me, you can find me on LinkedIn. That's probably the easiest. Alex Pauls, and kpdesign.ca. That's our website. Those are probably the easiest ways to get a hold of me. I don't usually put out my email address. Like, if you need to contact me, you can just go through the website, and that way I don't get any spam, right? And you know, I think my best advice for people is to be kind to yourself, and know that we all struggle, and we all struggle at different levels. But I've struggled so bad at some points, like even after my incredible adventure, and I ended up taking a job that wasn't good, and it was a red herring, and I was so mad at myself. I was so mad at myself, like I just wanted to die, because I fell for it again. and I was taking cold showers in the morning just to get up and face the day. That's how bad things got again. So just because you do something incredible doesn't mean that, you stay up high. Know that you're going to have peaks and valleys. Get better at trusting yourself, get better at meditating, you know, fire up your spirituality. Know that tomorrow is another day, and the things that you do, just get out of bed and just push through it and just try your best to be productive. Even if you're not as productive as possible, be productive in some form or fashion. Help somebody in any way you can, and you'll be surprised. Like those little things, you'll get better at coming out of the valleys quicker. That I think that's the biggest thing about getting older is you're on this roller coaster, and the lows can be low, but with wisdom, they don't have to last as long, and they don't have to be as low. And it just and you're just trying to raise your average. If you can just keep raising your average, so you're here, there'll still be ups and downs, but know that you're not alone. And doesn't matter how successful somebody is, they're gonna have a bad day or they get sick. So be grateful. I always wake up and I do a gratitude practice in the mornings. That's another huge thing that has helped my life this year. Is I wake up and I do a gratitude practice every morning, and that really starts the day off well. Like I'm grateful for my health. If you know somebody that has cancer, think about what they're going through right now. And if you don't, like that is something to really be grateful for. I'm sure we all know somebody now that has cancer. But if you're healthy right now, that's the number one thing. Get out of bed and just be grateful for that.
That's beautiful. Yeah, there's so much wisdom in there. So definitely rewind that back a couple times and listen to that. And even just taking like one nugget, something that stood out to you from that, and just putting that into practice, like that's really powerful. And yeah, just looking forward to talk to you down the road, because I sense a lot of changes that are going to be happening both of our lives in the next little bit, and you just never know. But yeah, just thank you so much for opening up and sharing what you had to share, and just keep up the good work, Alex. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dallin. Anytime. I'll come back again.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Definitely check out Alex's links in the show notes. And yeah, thank you so much.